So I recently did a video on how to use a belt as an improvised weapon against a knife, and it went viral. We got close to 10 million views on it, but I also got a lot of comments just destroying the video. And I wanted to do a longer video and an explanation and a breakdown of how and the benefits and the risks of using your belt as an improvised weapon. Because in any self-defense move technique I teach, there's always a benefit and a drawback. There's never any one move that is 100% foolproof that's gonna work at every time. So I gotta be honest, and we have to be honest in terms of what we teach. And what I try to do is look at what can go right and what could go wrong. So let's look at it from the point where maybe I don't have a belt. Now, if I don't have my belt, why would and I had the distance, why would I go straight to hand before picking up any type of improvised weapon? Why wouldn't I try to pick up a table, a chair, move around a table, throw something, pick anything to create distance? The thing against the knife, the first thing I teach people, obviously the last thing I want to do is engage with the knife hand to hand. It's all about evade and escape and getting out. But for me to do that, I need to create range, right? So I'm not gonna see the knife and go straight into hand before trying to attempt to get anything to either slow him down, push him back, demotivate him, discourage him to continue, create some kind of deterrent prior to the attack, okay? So, and the idea that I'm just gonna run, when people tell me this, obviously you lack knowledge in knife defense, because most fights happen in close quarter range. The knife is deployed last second. Most of the time, you're not gonna have that distance. So in this scenario, we're looking at it as if I did have distance. I did create distance in this particular scenario. So what does that mean, right? Obviously, if he's here, right, and he's here and he's talking to me, I'm not gonna be like stepping back. No, if I'm here and I'm already in close range, I'm not gonna risk going for my belt. My hands are gonna come up and I'm gonna be ready to intercept the attack. I'm not gonna be like, oh, sorry, let me get my belt, I need more space, right? Now, move back, if he's here and I see the knife and I see him from maybe even more far and I can't see his hand and he's walking towards me and I could pull it out, maybe I'll pull it out then, right? It really depends on the range. Now, if maybe he's even further, or maybe he told me, hey, you know what? When I see you outside, or maybe he's waiting for me, or maybe he's got a couple of his buddies, and I think shit's gonna hit the fan, then I'm gonna pull the belt prior to bring it out. So how am I gonna do? I'm gonna wrap it here, and I'm gonna conceal it here if I have to. And if I'm here, boom, first strike right to the head. Or if I create a distance, I'm gonna start using it now, okay? So, I'm gonna go, again, there's two ways of doing it. First one hand here, one hand there, and I'm doing this. This is the much quicker way. However, both your hands are on the belt. The second way, my preferred way, is here, where I got one hand here, my other hand is free, and now, Costas, you're thinking twice about coming in. To be honest with you, if I decided to just take a step, I'm gonna go closest weapon to closest target, where I'm gonna hit this hand, right? I might hit the lead hand, oof, or I might hit his head. Now you might tell me, how much does a belt hit? It's a hard metal buckle. Get this across the head. You're gonna think twice about stepping in. And now, the most common question I get is, well, Nick, what happens if he charges you? So, right, so if I'm doing this, I'm not gonna stay straight. One, if I'm here and I'm doing this and somehow he charges, I'm gonna move, but I'm not gonna stay center. I'm gonna use the lead arm and step off and strike. I'm not like just gonna stay static as he attacks me. And if I'm doing this, I could lead or I can switch, right? So right now, all I'm doing is demotivating him to come in. If I was somewhere and people were watching, if I was at a park or if I was outside in the street and what did people see? The one guy waving his belt and one guy with a knife. That might be enough for the attacker to say, shit, screw this, too much work, too hard, I'm out. So it's not always about finishing the fight, it's about doing whatever you can to slow him down. Now, Most people, and the second common attack, well, I'm not going to be afraid of a belt, I'm going to charge. You could charge, right? So if I did this and he grabbed the belt, well, what do I do now? Forget about the belt. Now I'm going to go hand to hand. It's only obvious that I'm not going to sit there. I don't teach this type of stuff and here and I don't believe in that stuff. That's where, to me, it becomes too technical, right? So if I'm here and guys, I'm going to hit the floor just so you see, and this is why I don't want to smack off stuff. This shit hurts across the head, right? So if I'm doing this and somehow, move back a little bit, Costa, and somehow he grabs it. So let's say he grabbed the belt, right? Now, what do? The first thing is, don't get attached to the belt. It's just an extension of your hand. That means start pulling the belt. If he pulled it, boom, I'll let him take it, or if he's pulling the belt, boom, boom, I'm going to use that momentum to strike, but I got to be aware of the knife. What I'm not going to do, pull the belt, because I'm not going to be trying to, as he's pulling back, I'm not going to pull back. I'm either going to step in and strike, being aware of the weapon, or if I can and he pulls back, maybe that's going to be my opportunity to run. There's no fixed pattern to, there's no fixed 100% that's going to work every time. The biggest factor in knife defense is always your environment. Again, where am I going to run? Tell me, I'm here, Costa's there, and I could pull out my belt. Why wouldn't I use my belt? And obviously, I'm going to get the comment, well, why don't you use a gun? Guys, not in every country that you can carry a gun. And if I take a gun and I shoot him, it's a 50-50, because you got to prove, was he attacking? There's a whole bunch of stuff which I don't want to get into. And yes, what's your life worth? That's a whole other debate. But in most countries and in most people, they don't carry a gun. You got to learn how to use your environment. You got to learn how to use improvised weapons, right? And even when I used to work in security in clubs, I used to carry a belt, big buckle, very solid, wrapped around all the time, ready to use to defend myself. If I needed to pull it out, I would pull it out. And all it does is create time to keep him back. Mind you, even if I'm using my belt, I'm still using my legs as a distraction, so I could do this, do here, and then whack, hit across the head. I'm always aware of where's the weapon. Again, all I'm trying to do is keep him back and buy some seconds before I go hand to hand. The objective against a knife is always survival, right? I'm always realistic and truthful for you guys. Before you do anything, your objective is to evade and escape. And this is why picking up any type of improvised weapon, this is why using the belt is good. When you're using the belt too, guys, like I said, try to go into closest weapon. His arm is here. He's doing this. I'm going to hit the hand. I can still kick. I can still kick the knee. Closest leg here, but I'm always aware of the weapon hand. And at any point, I can strike him to the head. We don't need to get more complicated. It's as much as you can to try to keep distance from him. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. Make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell, click the link in the comment box to check out our lethal weapon program. I break all this down. Stay safe and stand strong.